the methods. We are learning about the basic point about methods. So properties and methods, these are the points we learned. Yeah. So we discussed about what is difference between a function and a method. Technically difference between the function and method. Already I told you that class will not have multiple constructors. Right? Then it should not be a question at all in this case, right? Yeah. So technically, so what is the basic difference between a function and a method? I explained that point. So detailedly we will see that. So in the last session, we learned about the basic introduction about this. Now, how do we handle this? We will see. So what we learned in the previous session is about properties and how it is having a difference between a function and a method and a procedure like concepts. I hope everyone understood the difference between them. Now, the functions and methods in a class, you cannot have a function, but you can have a function call. That means you can call and use the functions. So outside the class, you can configure the functions. Inside the class, you call within a method. So class cannot have directly a function call. You have to create a method. Through a method, you can call the function. So that is a basic point you have to know. Now, we need to learn some more points here about the function, its definitions and description. Let's see. So what we need to understand is about the function definitions, configuring and using the function and their definition. Yep. So technically, when we are dealing with functions, first point we need to know about means difference between function and a method and a procedure. Next, we need to understand about declaration. Declaring and defining a function. Defining a function. So, how we can declare and define function? The same concept will come into method, but only the point is we will not use the word function. The rest of concepts will be similar. So if you know about function, then the same type of behavior will be for method also. How we can declare and define a function? Actually, the function declaration comprises of some important points you need to know. So for example, here we are writing a function, some add, and a is a string and b is a string type or a number type, as I'm giving add, right? Number type, and b also a number type. Okay, so this is generally the specification actually. Now what you need to understand is, in this configuration, so function have, this is how function is configured. Actually, this is this part is we call as declaration. This is function declaration, and this part, right, we call this as function declaration, and this part we generally call this as a definition. So this is definition, that is the function definition, and this part, so that is this add, and this is signature. This is function signature. This is the function definition, and that is the function declaration. So typically function has three important parts to understand: the function declaration, function definition, and function signature. So technically, so what should be the return type? We can configure the return types also. So already we learned when we discussed about interface. Interface can have only declaration. It cannot have definition. So function is defined in this way. It is defined in this way. So generally, when you write any function, usually, so it comprises of definition, declaration, and definition, and signature. These three words you need to remember. I'm writing function, some hello, and in the function, so we have parameters like msg, name, it is a string type, and here, so it returns void. Okay, and here there is the return type, and this is how we configure. Now in this syntax, in this entire syntax, so function hello and the name string and void. Actually this part is definition of function. Sorry, declaration of function. That is declaration of function. And this parenthesis that you defined, this is the definition for function. And hello and name as string, not return type, only up to that part. This is signature. That is the signature. That is how generally a function is configured. So it will have a declaration, it will have a definition, and it will have a signature. So declaration is used by compiler to understand what is it, what is the function name, what type of parameters it will take, and what value type it returns. Definition defines the actions to be performed, and signature is used to access and use the function in any location. To access and use the function in any location, you need just its signature. You need its signature. You need to get the signature. So that is what we have to understand. The function signature. Currently, temporarily, I'm using parameters. So actually, this is optional. It need not to have parameters. So params, and here we call them as args. That point also I will tell you. No need to worry about that. So generally, first step, you need to understand these three things. So declaration, definition, and signature. That is the key point about the function. So what you need to understand clearly, declaration so is for compiler to understand the type of value and parameters that function uses and returns. So declaration is for the compiler to understand the type of value parameters that function uses and returns. And definition comprises of actions to perform. And signature is used to access and use the function. You have to access and use the function. You can access and use the function by using its signature. By using its signature, we can access and use the function. Right. So this is the basic point. So we have declaration, definition, and signature. That is how we need to configure. Suppose we are using a function and function name hello, and its return type. So no return type, void, and here no return type is defined for that. Void operator I told you already. So now console.log. So here hello TypeScript something. That is a function. So we can directly call this function. Currently, I am not using any in classes. Later, I will tell you. Generally means how to keep them in organized way. With examples, we will see. First, we will understand the concept. If I want to access this function, how to access this function? I don't need entire declaration. I don't need the definition. I need only the signature of the function. And signature of the function is hello. That's it. That is the function signature. Then it can access and return the functionality. This is the general way how we can configure the function. So this is actually the function configuration. So that means you can see configuring a function. Configuring a function. Configuring a function, it is done in it comprises of three things. This is configuring the function. Okay. So first, if you understood how the function is configured, means the basic architecture of it. That means it looks like this. So that means here you are using signature to access the function and use the function. We are using the signature. Now you need to understand in how many ways you can create a function, in how many ways we can create the functions. Actually, so that means there are various techniques. There are various techniques of defining a function. A function. There are various techniques of defining a function. We have various techniques of defining a function. What are those? Or what are the various techniques of defining the function? Generally, function can be defined in several ways. Like, first one is, so a function can be defined by using function keyword. Second, a function can be defined so by using anonymous type. Anonymous type. So function can be defined by using function constructor. There are various techniques of defining a function. Function keyword, anonymous type, and function constructor. So that is three different ways. Function keyword already we know. So that means function keyword. So it uses function keyword and a function name So it uses the function keyword and function name. So function keyword uses a function keyword and function name. That is general. That is one. Already you know this. Second one, so it can be anonymous type function declaration. A function declaration can be with function keyword or anonymous type function. Generally, anonymous type means a function will not have a name. That means now generally what we do is we don't define a name for the function. So this is the function. There is no name defined for the function. Then what we do is we use let hello. So in this you have to configure this. This is anonymous type declaration actually. That means function will not have a name. Then function is loaded into memory. If it is not having a name and it is loaded into memory, then how to access it? Then better load into a named location in memory. And named location in memory is variable. Load into a named location in the memory. In memory, use a named location and load into it. So that now functionality can be accessed, function can be accessed by using that named location. So technically hello is not function. Hello is not function. It is a variable that returns a function. So that means hello is a variable of function type. It is a function type. That means if I want to understand what is its type, that means console.log. So I will say type of hello. I am using type of hello. I'm just checking the type of hello. So here open this in the terminal. Okay. And let's run this and see. So demo.ts and node demo.js. And you can see it is a function type. It's a variable with function type. So that means anonymous type. The purpose of anonymous type, that means it refers to a function. It refers to a function. It refers to a function that doesn't have a name. It refers to a function that doesn't have a name. So it is loaded into a named location. That means variable. So, or it can be a property also. It is variable or property. It is loaded into a named location and accessed by using the named location. We call this as anonymous type. Now, generally, if I ask the question, already we discussed, if you remembered. So detailedly also we will see now. What is the purpose of anonymous function when we use anonymous functions? When we use anonymous functions, can you tell me? When we use anonymous functions, in arrays concept, I think we discussed, I told you, when we use anonymous functions. In arrays concept, I told you. So the technical word is anonymous functions are used on callback. Am I right? Anonymous functions are used for callback mechanism. Remember, in array concept we discussed, array can contain a collection of functions also. I told you, na? So here, one more time, I will show you when we discuss about polymorphism and other options. So technically, we use in callback technique. Callback technique means the function executes according to the state. That means according to the situation. So that means, so anonymous functions are used in callback mechanism. So the callback technique. That means they are used in callback. They are used in callback mechanism. So in callback mechanism, where function is called and executed automatically according to the state and situation. It will execute automatically according to the state and situation. So that is important. I will show you so how the callback mechanism works with the concept of parameters. This is anonymous type declaration. Anonymous type function, generally it doesn't have a name. We use in callback mechanisms actually. Later I will give you some examples for that. Generally, suppose, see, what is that callback technique actually? So this is general one example. That means how do we access this? Hello. So this is first syntax, how we define anonymous type. And very important is, in interviews, sometimes they ask the question, is it mandatory that anonymous function should be loaded into a named location? and we need to access. Without named location also, you can define an anonymous function. Without named location also, we can define anonymous function. So that means the question asked in interviews is, so can we access and define define and access anonymous function without named location. Can we define and access anonymous function without named location? So generally, can we define and access anonymous function without named location? So the answer is yes. Yes, we can define and access anonymous function without named location. How this is possible? How we can configure this? So variable means named location only. If you say variable, that means again you are doing the same mistake, right? So without a variable, we are named location means variable only, right? Now the point is, without that, how we can configure and how do we access that, right? Let's see that how we can configure and access this. Generally, we can configure this function without the named location. So I'm trying to define this. Anonymous functions without named location can be defined in a parenthesis, and we can use that parenthesis immediately after the function to call the function. That is simple. This is anonymous technique. That means now this parenthesis that you have defined, this parenthesis you defined, so it is actually the call of this particular reference. That means you configured this in a parenthesis and immediately you are defining in this way. That means you are calling that function immediately. Now remember, you cannot do that. Suppose I am writing somewhere else after you end this, somewhere else you are trying. It is not possible. It can be called only before it ends. It can be called only before it ends. So before it ends. After it ends, you cannot call somewhere else. So that is the point here. So that means how I will compile and run this now. That means this time anonymous function is configured in this way. It calls it and uses it. So this empty indicates the call of that particular function, the empty parenthesis, anonymous, that indicates anonymous. Syntax will be like this. That is the reason you observed here. Suppose I am creating obj is equal to new class name. And here you are using an empty parenthesis. That means this empty parenthesis refers to what? That empty parenthesis refers to what? At the class name. That empty parenthesis refers to what? That empty parenthesis refers to constructor. Am I right? It refers to the constructor. And constructor is an anonymous, na? Am I right? Constructor is an anonymous. That means we have to access that anonymous function immediately after the class name. That even you don't define it, automatically it will implicitly do that. That's the reason explicitly we need to do only when we need parameters. Only when we need parameters. So that is what actually anonymous type. This is anonymous configuration. So how we can configure and access the function. So generally we use this kind of functions in callback mechanisms. For example, so we are creating a class. So we are creating a function. This function name is Ajax call, right? So this is just roughly I'm giving. It's an Ajax call. Now in this, we are configuring some success and failure. These two are defined there. Success and failure are defined here. Now, success and failure are two general form references. What are those called? I will tell you, because we haven't learnt about parameters. Currently, these are any type. They can handle any type of value. Success is any type, failure is any type. So better, I will keep our TypeScript any to keep it more better understand. It can handle any. It can handle any. Now what we are doing here is we are creating LET, some success function. That means on success is equal to a function. On success equal to function. So here we are configuring some functionality. Configuring the functionality. Or we can implement them inside that particular function with some functionality. That means success should be a function and like this. That means what we are defining here is we can say success. Success is a function. This function so puts a message console.log saying that so request success. Request success. So that message it should display. Another, we have failure. Failure is a function. And this is so here we define console.log failed. So some say request failed. Like this we are configuring. That means now success and failure are functions. Success and failures are functions. So these are function type now because we are configuring them as function. And whenever we call them, we have to call by this reference. Usually these type of functions are designed for callback mechanism. But you cannot understand that callback mechanism until or unless you know parameters. So once I tell you about parameters, then I can show you this example. Means how anonymous and callbacks will happen. So we will not touch this one until we finish that concept. As of now, you need to understand that it is used in callbacks. So directly you can access anonymous function in this way. What are callbacks? How to use callbacks? That you need to understand with a separate example that we will discuss about that. I already told you, right? So when we learn about concepts, we will discuss about those mechanisms. So you don't need to worry about any point, right? I know that. So when situation comes, we will discuss about. I know when to tell them, right? Exactly. So that's the reason we will wait until that concept comes. Because I already told you that this is not the right time to discuss about callback. When that situation comes, you will learn everything about it with examples. No need to worry. So the callback mechanism, forget about that. Later you will see. Only the point is anonymous is used in callback mechanism. That is the concept. Okay. This is two. Currently I am telling only declaration of functions, right? We will detailedly understand everything. So one is function keyword. and anonymous type, and a function constructor. We use a function constructor, function constructor, function constructor. Actually, functions are defined with a function constructor like, so let hello is equal to, so here we are defining a new function f uppercase. It is a function constructor. So this function constructor can take your values. Suppose I will make this function as add. Okay. This function constructor can have the parameters. So A is parameter, comma, B is parameter, comma, return A plus B. That is what it has to perform. That means everything you are defining in a string form, parameters and the construction, we need to configure in this way. So the point here is, now this is a function actually, add is a function. I am writing console.log because it is returning a number. So I have to call add. Add is a function. Into that we are passing some 10, 20, 30, something. And here I am saying addition is equal to and dollar, and I will call this and just keep that message. That means we created this add. Remember, not f lowercase, it is a function constructor. It is a function derived from function constructor. It is a function constructor. Now observe here, when I compile and run this, when I compile and run this, it will show addition is 40. So that is working fine. This time I am not using function keyword. I am using a function constructor. And function constructor, now tell me, what is the purpose of a function constructor? When we use a function constructor, when we can use a function constructor, what do you think? When we can use a function constructor? You can write any multi-line operations also, not single line operation only. My question is, when we need this function constructor, in which situation we use function constructor? Actually, the name itself tells what it is. Function constructor. Now don't think that it is general class constructor. It is a function constructor. Means it is used to construct a function dynamically. Understood? Now you don't think as a class constructor. Here function constructor, its name is to tell that it can create a functionality dynamically. Am I right? Generally, when you create a function, a function have a specific functionality defined. Generally, when you create function, a function can have a specific functionality defined. But when you are using a function constructor, this constructor allows you to build your own functionality every time. A function constructor allows a function to handle different situations and build a function dynamically according to their situation and requirement. Understood? I will show you. For example, suppose here I am configuring this. So that means I am configuring this here like this. Let param 1. That means parameter 1. And it is a string type. And let param 2. Param 2, it is also a string type because constructor can accept only string type parameters. String type parameters, okay, right. So string type param 1, param 2. And here I'm defining, so let, so operation. So this is also a string type. Now here I'm using those three options here. That means this function is using param 1, comma param 2, and it is using an operation. I'm configuring that here. Now, for example, here I'm configuring the values, defining the values. That means param 1 is referred with A, param 2 is referred with B, and the operation is defined with return A into B. Am I right? Now this is a function. That means, so I will just define it as a F1. Okay. And I am calling here, so console.log F1, and into the F1 I am passing 10, 2. I am passing 10, 2. That means now this is configuring and defining the functionality here, and the functionality is 20, 10 into 2. Now I changed this to plus here, and now this function is used for adding, that means addition, that is 12. Understood? I hope you understood. Right? That means you are constructing a function dynamically, and you can handle this function with a different functionality as per the situation. According to the state, according to the situation, we can configure a function and its functionality dynamically. You can change its functionality dynamically. The main intention of function constructor is to construct a function dynamically for the situation that can handle specific functionality. That means the main intention is, so it allows if construction, it allows a function, it allows to construct a function. It allows to construct a function. It allows to construct a function dynamically. So it can configure and change the functionality. It can configure and change the functionality as per the state, and situation. That is what actually a function constructor can do. So it is defined with arguments. It is defined with arguments which are string type. It is defined with arguments which are string type. And important arguments include parameter name, param name, so and return type, return value. Arguments include parameter name and return value. The definitions. What is parameter argument? We are going to detailedly discuss in the next point. We will learn about that. Initially, the function constructor. The purpose of function constructor, it allows you to create a function dynamically so that we can change its behavior as per the situation. We can change its behavior. That is what actually intention of a function constructor. So this is how we configure a function constructor. So by using the function constructor F uppercase. That's the reason in many interviews the question will come, what is difference between function and a function? F uppercase and F lowercase, these two are there. What is difference between function and function? Function is lowercase 1, another one is function uppercase. So one is function keyword, another one is function constructor. So this function, so the answer is the lowercase function defines a function statically, and this uppercase function defines a function dynamically. That's how actually the function handles that situation, right? So how this is going to work, already I showed you. I hope you saw that. So at one situation it is 20, another situation it is 12. According to what you have changed for that, it is handling that particular operation, right? This is the basic how we define the function, configure and define the function, right? So generally the function signature, so and the function definition, how to handle it, right? Now the point is, once you know how do we define the functions in different ways, now there is another technique of defining and configuring the function. These are the traditional techniques here. So one is the function keyword and anonymous type and the function constructor, and another option is by using a lambda notation. By using a lambda notation. So lambda notation allows to define the function in a shortest way. That means generally lambda is used in a minification technique. So lambda notation for functions. Lambda notation for function. That means it is used to minify the logic. It is used to minify the logic. If you know general JavaScript and CSS, I hope majority of you know about minification. Minification is a technique where the functionality will remain same, but the number of lines you written will be reduced. That is a minification technique. To minify the logic, and it is a technique used to define function in a shorthand way. Define function in a shorthand way. We can configure and define the functions in a shorthand way. Minification is a technique actually. Suppose generally minification, if you know JavaScript and CSS, suppose we are writing a lengthy logic. So I'm writing if condition and statement if true, else statement if false. In minification, you can write this in a ternary operator, condition, question mark, statement if true, and statement if false. That means your 6 lines code is now reduced to 1 line. The functionality remains same, but you are minifying the logic. Actually, for minification, we have separate tools. We use those tools. Everybody who knows CSS and JavaScript, they know about that. For example, suppose roughly here, I am using a script here. That means I am writing a function. So validate. In that, we are just writing where pin is equal to some 2000. Okay. If pin is equal to 2000, then we are writing option like console.log valid. Okay, else I defined console.log invalid. So invalid. Okay. I'm saving this code. Somewhere on desktop. I will keep a folder as some scripts, and I will save this as validate.js. It is a JavaScript file. Now that is the JavaScript file we have configured. Right. So pin is double equal to, okay, comparison. Yeah, fine. Now this is a JavaScript file. Now you can see here, this validate JavaScript file, it is occupying 143 bytes space. Now in my computer, I have some special softwares. To minify. So I have some softwares to minify. This is a software for minification. And I have some software for minification that is, this is Mollify. It is asking drop the folder. I will drag and drop that script folder and I will click minify now. It is minified. Once it is minified, you can see here another file is generated, validate.min. And I open that validate min file properties. It is 41 bytes. 143 bytes is now reduced to 41 bytes. That means here the point is functionality will be same, but how it reduced the size? It is not compressing. So then what happened? Open this minified file in Notepad. You can see our code is reduced to this shortest way because it is verifying that the pin you entered. So it is verifying that the pin you have entered. Then it will not think that this is all necessary for you. It will evaluate that result also, then print only the output. That's great. That's good. That means this is what minification is. Suppose if I haven't given this pin value, and without giving the pin value, so I will minify that one more time. So that means that I open the software. Means I am not giving that value. And I am minifying that one more time. It is minified. Okay. Now open this and see now. So in the scripts, open this in Notepad after minification. This time you can see it is using 2000 as 2e3. You know why it is? Because 2e3 means 2 into 10 to the power of 3. We learned about exponentation. It is 2000 now. and 3-character spin word is converted into short n, and it is using a ternary operator instead of if. This is what generally we call as minification. That means the intention is, remember, a developer is given with both files, the original file and the minified file. Why? Because in development we use the original files. Why we don't use the minified files? Because minified files cannot track the location of the problem. If any problem occurred, they will tell that this is problem, but they cannot track the location of the problem. That means in which line problem occurred. Then in development, you should never use these minified files. In development, always you have to use the original files. Minified files used in production. That means when finally you are giving it to client and publishing, you use minified files. Every library that you download related to JavaScript and CSS, you will get both the original file and the minified. So here our intention is how to make our functions represent in a short form. With lambda, we can do that. Lambda notation allows the function to define in a shorthand way, so that you can minify the logic and keep the functionality same. How these lambdas are used, that we will see in tomorrow's session. So tomorrow we will discuss about function parameters, function return types, and lambda. And some more function related advanced concepts are there. We will discuss about them. Then we can continue with other OOP concepts, right? Tomorrow we'll continue.